Thanksgiving at my family's house always felt like a rehearsed performance. Fake smiles, obligatory gratitude, and unspoken grudges simmering beneath every look. But this year, something shifted. It was colder, more cutting. I sensed it the second I stepped through the door and noticed my name missing from the place cards. The dining table was elegantly set for 11, with 10 names neatly written, none of them mine. I stood there clutching the pumpkin pie I'd spent hours perfecting, unsure where to belong. My mom barely glanced my way. My younger brother, Ryan, was already the center of attention, surrounded by laughter and clinking wine glasses. I grabbed a folding chair from the corner and sat against the wall like an uninvited stranger. Then, just before dessert, my mom raised her glass for a toast. "To the only child who's truly made us proud," she declared. The room erupted in applause for Ryan. I stood, my hands trembling. "Thank you," I said, my voice sharp, "for finally saying it out loud." I headed for the door until my father's voice stopped me. "Hold on. Tell them what you did." I hadn't expected a warm welcome, but I also hadn't anticipated being completely ignored. No "Happy Thanksgiving, Emily," no embrace, no acknowledgement. Just the creak of the front door and my mom standing there, half-empty Chardonnay in hand, her expression saying, "Oh, you actually came." I forced a grin, holding up the pie I'd labored over. She barely looked at it. "We've got dessert already," she muttered, turning away. The living room hummed with chatter, my aunt and uncle by the hearth, cousins sprawled on the sofa, and Ryan, of course, holding court like the star of the show. I lingered, unsure whether to join in or fade into the background. When dinner was announced, I followed everyone to the dining room and stopped cold. The table gleamed with fine china, crystal glassware, and gold-edged napkins. 11 chairs, 10 place cards, none with my name. I scanned again, hoping it was an oversight. No one met my eyes. No one made room. I spotted a metal folding chair against the wall, dragged it over, and set it at the table's edge like an ill-fitting piece of a puzzle. The scrape of metal on wood rang louder than it should have. Still, no one reacted. They were lost in their stories, Ryan's big promotion, Ryan's fancy new condo, Ryan's brilliant idea that saved his team. My uncle slapped his shoulder like he'd just won a Nobel Prize. I ate slowly, the food tasteless despite its quality. I glanced at my mom, searching for a hint of warmth. She didn't notice or chose not to. Then came the toast. My mom stood, glass raised, commanding the room's attention. It fell silent as if they'd rehearsed this moment. "I'm so proud," she began, her voice heavy with wine and self-assurance. "This year it's clear who's truly stepped up, who's made us proud." I braced myself, feeling the blow coming. "So let's toast to the only child who's made us proud." All eyes turned to Ryan. They clapped. My fork froze midair. My chair might as well have been invisible. I wasn't in this narrative, not tonight, not ever. I stood slowly, my chest tight but my legs steady. I looked at her. "Thank you," I said, my voice slicing through the applause, for finally saying it out loud. I turned toward the exit. I hadn't meant to cause a scene. I just wanted to eat, say something polite, and leave before the ache in my chest spilled over. But when my mom raised her glass to Ryan like he was the family's golden child, something in me broke. The silence after my words wasn't theatrical. It was precise, like a blade cutting through the room. I was almost at the door when I heard it. "Wait!" It was my father. After years of staying quiet, avoiding conflict, and sipping his drink during tense moments, he spoke. I turned, confused. His voice was steady, unwavering. "Tell them what you did." The room shifted, eyes darting from me to him and back. My mom lowered her glass slightly, clearly caught off guard. Ryan's brow furrowed, his confident grin wavering. "What's he talking about?" Ryan asked, trying to keep his tone light. I looked at my dad, wondering how much he knew. I hadn't shared the details with him, or anyone. I didn't think he'd noticed. He nodded, not pushing, just giving me space to speak. So I faced the table, the same one I'd helped set every holiday since I was a kid, and I spoke. "You all want to toast Ryan," I said, my voice calm, "but maybe toast me first because I'm the reason he got that job." The room went still. Forks paused. My aunt blinked like she'd misheard. Ryan let out a short, disbelieving laugh. "What? That's not true." I didn't flinch. The hiring freeze at Crestfall PR, they weren't accepting applications. Ryan had no chance. But I sent his resume to someone I mentored in HR, someone who owed me a favor. I rewrote his cover letter, overhauled his resume, and made the call. That's why he got the interview. My mom's lips tightened. "That's not true. Ryan was perfectly qualified." "Ryan didn't even know what PR meant when he sent me his draft," I shot back. "He majored in film and listed strong communication skills as his top asset." I turned to the room. I handed him that opportunity and never said a word because I didn't need the credit. Silence. My brother's fiancée looked away. My uncle fidgeted with his napkin. Only my father stayed steady, watching. I didn't want applause, I said, but just once I'd like to not be erased. My voice held firm. I wasn't looking for a fight, I was exhausted. Exhausted from being invisible at a table I'd helped hold together. Ryan stayed quiet. No one spoke. For the first time, their silence wasn't mine to bear. "You're lying," Ryan said at last, but his voice lacked its usual swagger. He glanced at me, then at Dad, then at Mom, searching for someone to back him up. No one did. "I'm not," I said evenly. "You begged me to fix your resume, remember? You said you were terrible at putting things into words." "I didn't just edit it, Ryan, I gave you a shot." Mom folded her arms. "You always make everything about you, Emily. Can't you let your brother have his moment?" The familiar sting rose in my throat, the one I'd swallowed since I was a teenager. This time, I let it out. "You mean like when I graduated college early with honors, and you asked if the ceremony was even worth attending? Or when I won the state tech scholarship, and you called it a nice little computer award? Meanwhile, Ryan completes a 6-week online marketing course and you throw a party." My mom's face flushed, not with guilt, but with annoyance. "That's different." "No," I said, my voice unwavering. "It's never different. Ryan's average achievements get parades, while my successes are just inconvenient noise." Ryan looked at me, his expression more uneasy than angry. "I didn't realize you went through all that," he said. "You didn't want to," I replied. "I wasn't asking for glory, but I hoped maybe I wouldn't have to drag a chair to my own family's table just to exist." The silence returned, heavier now. For a moment I almost regretted speaking, almost. Then my father cleared his throat. "I didn't know she got you that job, Ryan," he said, his tone quiet but firm. Ryan stared at the turkey as if it might rescue him. He didn't respond. I turned to my mom. "You want to talk about qualifications? He wasn't ready for that job. He got it because of me, and I stayed quiet, even when you toasted him in front of everyone." Mom scoffed. "So what do you want, Emily? A pat on the back?" I stared at her, stunned. "No, I want honesty. I want to be seen. I want to stop being erased in a room I helped hold together." She rolled her eyes. "You're being dramatic," but her voice faltered slightly. Ryan spoke again, quieter. "Emily, I didn't realize how much you did." "That's the thing," I said. "You didn't want to. It was easier to believe you were the star than to admit someone else paved the way." The guilt on his face was real, and for the first time I didn't feel invisible. I felt visible. I hadn't planned to air years of buried frustration at the dinner table, but once the truth started, it wouldn't stop. "Do you remember?" I asked, scanning the room. "When I flew to Chicago for that national coding conference?" My mom blinked, vague. "I placed in the top 5. You told people it was cool that I was into tech. Ryan got 3rd in a local pie-eating contest, and you printed shirts." A few cousins stifled laughs. No one spoke up. "I worked 2 jobs in college so you didn't have to co-sign my loans," I went on. "When Dad hurt his back and couldn't work, I sent groceries every week for 2 months. You called it kind of me, like I was some neighbor dropping off leftovers. I wasn't shouting or crying. I was done playing a role for a family that never saw the real me. And when you got that IRS notice about the lien on the house," I added, "you said it was a miracle it went away. It wasn't a miracle, it was me. I paid it off quietly so Dad wouldn't lose the home he built." My mom's eyes narrowed. "If you had that kind of money, why didn't you help when Ryan's car broke down last month?" The room tensed. "That's when I realized," I said. "It's not that you don't get it, it's that you don't want to. Ryan's car was more important to you than Dad keeping his home, and I had nothing left to give." My mom opened her mouth, but my father raised a hand, not loudly, just firmly. She stopped. He looked at me. "You paid the lien?" I nodded. "With what?" "My savings, all of it." He looked down, then back up, pain flashing in his eyes. "You shouldn't have had to." "I know," I said, "but someone had to. And I thought maybe it would mean something." My mom stood abruptly. "I need a break." She left the room, and seconds later Ryan followed, his face pale, his steps hesitant. And just like that, I was alone again. But this time it felt different, because now they knew. Every person at that table knew the version of me they'd ignored for years, the one who sacrificed, who stayed silent, who was erased, one celebration at a time. I stepped outside. The November air was crisp, but it felt fresher than the stifling dining room. I was halfway down the porch steps when I heard my name. "Emily, hold on." It was Ryan. His voice wasn't smug this time. It was small, uncertain. I turned, the porch light casting shadows between us. He stayed at the door, gripping the frame like it was holding him up. I need to come clean, he said, his voice breaking slightly. I crossed my arms. Go ahead. I knew, he said. About the job, not right away, but after I got the offer, I overheard HR mention your name. I knew you made it happen. I stared at him. And you said nothing. I wanted to believe I earned it, he admitted. I told myself it didn't matter, that I still had to nail the interview, show up. But when Mom started calling me her pride and joy, I didn't correct her. You didn't just stay quiet, I said. You let her erase me and you basked in it. He winced, regret breaking through his polished exterior. I'm not proud of it, he said, but there's more. My stomach tightened. More, he stepped onto the porch, his voice low. Last year, when you offered to help refinance the house, Mom told me to stop you. I blinked. What? She said it would be a mistake, that you'd use it to take control. She asked me to talk you out of it. Memories flooded back, Ryan saying, maybe you shouldn't get involved. You've got enough on your plate. I thought he was looking out for me. He was covering for her. I didn't think you'd actually do it, he added quickly. I didn't know you'd empty your savings. But I did, I said, my voice flat. I know, he whispered, and it's been eating me up. We stood in silence, the distant chatter from inside feeling like another world. I looked at him, not the golden boy, not the social media perfect brother, but the kid who used to beg me to read him bedtime stories. Ryan, I said softly, you were never the problem, but you let the problem fester because it worked for you. I know, he said. I'm trying to do better. I didn't forgive him, not yet. But for the first time, he wasn't just a shadow in Mom's spotlight. He was trying to step out of it. Ryan took a shaky breath, looking at me like he needed permission to keep talking. I didn't speak, but I didn't walk away either. That seemed enough. There's something else, he said. It's about the house, I frowned. What about it? He glanced at the door, lowering his voice. Mom's been talking to a realtor. She's planning to sell it before the year's out. What? She said she doesn't need to list Dad on the paperwork since the deed's still in her name. She's already eyeing a condo, says she's downsizing to live with Aunt Linda. She's leaving him, says it's temporary, but it's not. She just hasn't told him. The words hit like a punch to the chest, a clean break. She's selling the house, I repeated, the one I drained my savings to save, and she didn't tell him. Ryan nodded. She told me to keep quiet, said it would complicate things. But after tonight, after what you said, I couldn't hold it in. My fist clenched, not from anger, but from a betrayal so deep it exhausted me. I'd done everything to keep that house standing, to keep Dad secure, and Mom was planning to sell it behind his back. She was going to blindside him, I whispered. Ryan nodded. My heart pounded so hard I felt it in my throat. The years of being dismissed fused with the shock that it wasn't just me she undervalued, it was everything. The front door creaked open. Dad stepped onto the porch, jacket in hand, confusion in his eyes but strength in his stance. You two should come back inside, he said. I've got something to say. Ryan looked at me uncertain. I was frozen, part of me wanting to keep walking, to let them stew in their delusions. But something in Dad's face, firm yet vulnerable, held me there. I nodded, and together Ryan and I followed him back inside. The laughter was gone. The chatter had died. What remained was a heavy, suffocating silence, the kind that follows a truth too big to ignore. Everyone was seated except Dad. He stood at the head of the table where Mom usually reigned. When she returned from wherever she'd gone, she glared at him like he'd stolen her stage. He didn't flinch. I've made mistakes as a father, he began. But my biggest was letting this family believe loudness meant strength, that silence meant weakness, that the child who never demanded attention didn't deserve it. He looked at me. Emily has carried this family in ways most of you will never understand. I couldn't breathe. No one else could either. She paid off the IRS lien last year quietly, he said. She helped refinance the house. She helped me walk when I could barely move, cooked when I couldn't get out of bed, and never once asked for recognition. The only sound was the ticking of the fireplace clock. And while we were cheering for Ryan, Dad continued, looking around, we were standing on the shoulders of the person we overlooked. My mom's voice cut in sharp. Who told you all this? He met her gaze. It doesn't matter who told me. What matters is I know. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a manila envelope, setting it on the table. I've talked to our lawyer, he said. Starting next month, the house will be in both our names, Emily's and mine. Gasps, real and sharp. You're giving her the house? Mom snapped. I'm giving her what she already saved. She tried to speak, but he held up another paper. You signed over financial control during the refinance, remember? You didn't read the details. You can't stop me. Her face paled. For the first time, Cynthia Carson had no retort. She sat down, not gracefully, but like someone out of moves. The silence that followed crackled with tension. No one stirred, not even Ryan. The house itself seemed to hold its breath, waiting for what came next. Dad stayed standing, looking older but resolute. "You signed over the rights when we refinanced," he repeated, "because you didn't want the hassle of paperwork because you thought it didn't matter. But it did. Now Emily and I own this home, legally, fully." My aunt tried to ease the moment. "Maybe we should just—" "No," Dad cut in. "This isn't something we gloss over with dessert and small talk. Not this time." He faced the table, every cousin, uncle, and in-law who'd clapped for Ryan earlier. "You all sat here," he said, "and cheered while my daughter was humiliated at her own family's table, and I stayed silent. That's on me. I let my silence become permission." His voice wavered just enough to make my throat tighten. "When I was recovering, Emily paid the bills, kept the lights on, not for praise, but because she couldn't bear to see her family crumble." He turned to me. "And I let her carry that alone." I nodded, unable to speak. He faced the room again. "While I was letting her bear that weight, I watched her mother toast her brother for things Emily made possible." Ryan's head dropped. He didn't defend himself. The guilt was evident in his posture. Mom, still at the table's end, let out a sharp laugh. "This is absurd." Dad's head turned slowly. "What's absurd is that you were ready to sell this house, the one Emily saved, and move in with your sister without telling me." Her eyes shot to Ryan, who didn't meet them. "I was going to tell you," she said tightly. "You were going to surprise me with a sale and a new address," he retorted. "You weren't downsizing, you were walking away." The word landed like a blow. Mom stood, fire in her eyes. "Do you think running this house was easy while you worked and stayed quiet? I've done everything." "You've done everything except listen," Dad said, "to me, to your daughter, to the truth." She turned to me. "So what? You're the hero now?" I held her gaze. "This was never about being the hero. I just wanted to stop being invisible." Something shifted in her eyes, but she didn't cry. She never did. She walked out again, and this time no one followed. Dad looked at me. "I know I'm late, Emily, but I'm here now." I swallowed hard. "Thank you," he nodded. "You deserve to feel like this home is yours, not just because your name's on the deed, but because your heart always has been." And that was it. No grand gestures, no dramatic music, just the truth laid bare for everyone to hear. When I looked around, no one met my eyes. They weren't ashamed of me, they were ashamed of themselves. For once, I didn't shrink under their silence. I claimed it. It wasn't the silence of being ignored anymore, it was the silence of a reckoning. People started leaving soon after. No more chatter, no warm goodbyes, just the rustle of jackets, the jingle of keys, and the weight of realization lingering in the air. Even my usually talkative cousin stayed quiet. Ryan lingered, helping clear the table without being asked. No phone, no showy comments, just quiet work, like he was learning how to exist without the spotlight. In the kitchen, Dad poured himself a glass of wine, then one for me. We didn't toast. We didn't need to. A few minutes later, Ryan brought me a mug of coffee, one for himself too. "I don't know if I can fix this," he said, eyes down. "But I want to try, not just because I feel bad, okay, partly that, but because I miss having a real sister, not just the idea of one." I took the mug. "We'll see," I said softly. He nodded. "Fair." We didn't embrace, we weren't there yet, but we weren't on opposite sides of the table anymore either. And maybe that was enough for now. When I stepped outside, the air was colder, but it didn't faze me. I looked back at the house, the porch I'd once crossed as an outsider, the windows still glowing. It looked the same, weathered and familiar, but it felt different. This time I wasn't leaving empty-handed. This time I'd said what needed saying. I'd claimed my place, not just in the house, but in my family's story. The next morning, I woke up in my small apartment and made breakfast as usual, but something in me felt calmer, steadier. My phone buzzed, a text from a cousin who'd been silent all night. "We misjudged you. I'm sorry." I stared at it, then replied, "Don't be sorry, just do better." I set the phone down, took a bite of toast, and let the peace settle in, not the kind from being celebrated, but the kind from finally being free.